Welcome to our 2024 season of Cloud Industry Forum presents TWF. We're speaking to you from our mixed reality newsroom style set, courtesy of our friends here at Disruptive Live. This is our weekly video podcast where we interview a guest from one of our members or someone with something to say about cloud technology or transformation or artificial intelligence or what's coming next. I'm David Terrar. I'm the CEO of the Cloud Industry Forum, which is a not-for-profit trade body that champions and helps accelerate the adoption of cloud technology and services. I'm at DT on X, David_Terrar with an A on Threads and Instagram, and easy to find on LinkedIn. We like to mix things up on TWF and come at the technology topic from different angles. Today we'll be approaching it from the perspective of a law firm which specialises in technology and data. Our guest is the founder and managing director of Garfield Smith, and he's called Garfield Smith. I'm delighted to welcome you to the studio, Garfield. Could you introduce yourself and your company and what you do?
Yep, well, my name's Garfield Smith. Our law firm is called Garfield Smith. We are technology and data lawyers, and we specialise in all areas of technology and data. We act for early stage businesses, developing technology. We act for VCs and family offices, investing in technology, and we act for large corporates, usually helping them buy technology.
Okay, very good. Well, before we get into kind of your view of the intersection of law and technology, tell us a bit more about your background. You know, what got you into law and what got you into the technology angle of law?
Well, yeah. So I was balanced between the two. My father brought home one of the early 8-bit computers in the late sort of 70s, early 80s.
Very good.
And I was absolutely enthralled. Yeah. And so I got into sort of coding at a very early age, and really wasn't sure whether to go into law or computing, but decided to go into law, and really after 5-6 years studying law, was really keen to get back into technology.
Very good.
And so I qualified as a lawyer at a very large New York law firm.
Oh, very good.
And spent the early years of my career sort of flying around the world, doing deals in the sort of telecom sector in the late 90s of deregulation of the telecoms industry. And that led, I'd always had an interest in the internet from the sort of mid-90s, and that led into sort of working with dot-coms and early stage businesses, then moving on and doing some really interesting outsourcing deals and technology deals from with one of the first actual large UK outsourcing providers. It's a fascinating period at the beginning of my career. Culminating, I was a partner in a big international law firm, culminating about 8 years ago in sort of setting up my own law firm, doing what we do.
Fantastic. Just one thing about the background. Why did you start in New York? I mean, that seems like a cool thing to do, but what triggered you to start there?
So the law firm that I joined was one of the first big international law firms.
Yeah.
It was a firm called Couder Brothers. Yeah. They'd actually started, there were two brothers, one was French, and they were both French, but one lived in New York, one lived in Paris. Yeah. And they were doing international deals. So they did, one of the first deals that they worked on when they set up was the funding of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, wow.
But they had a reputation for doing international work. And obviously, if you're building telecoms networks, then it's international work by its nature. And because I was interested in sort of telecoms and the internet, it was the only law firm that really, really specialised at an early stage. Oh, okay. And so I joined them, and they, I mean, very sadly, they went bust about 15 or 16 years ago. You know, they'd been formed in the 1820s. Wow. They're now part of Baker & McKenzie. Okay. In New York.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned tech firms and startups and that kind of thing. Now, we actually met at Beyond M&A, Hutton Henry's event, one of his events for his customers. And so tell me about working with tech startups and why you're interested in that, why you're passionate about that.
Sure. So I did a lot of work for, I guess, the first generation of dot-com startups. So, you know, the first generation really of web-enabled businesses. Yeah. But then I guess as I got more senior in the organisation that I was in, it became difficult to act for early stage businesses. And about 15 years ago, one of my team said, would you mind doing a favour for a friend of hers who's just set up an early stage business in the AR sector, one of the actually groundbreaking AR businesses in this country.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And, I got involved. They couldn't really afford our fees, but because I was in a big law firm, they're very expensive. But I took a view.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I'd forgotten how much I liked working with, founders of early stage businesses and, cutting edge, groundbreaking technology.
Yeah.
And so, that really led me I did two things. They asked me to sit on the board, which I did.
Excellent, that's good.
Secretary there, and we raised over 100 million.
Wow.
I thought, I've got to find a way of working to provide legal services to these, these kind of businesses too. So I set up my own firm, and we have much lower overheads. We're very nimble. We have a small team, small offices in the city, but we can act for early stage businesses as well as the big corporates.
Excellent. Well, you mentioned some of the types of things you get involved with, like outsourcing contracts and the kind of everything on the procurement side. Give us a bit more information about that, the kind of companies that you work with beyond the startups.
So I started outsourcing. One of the first deals I did was the Transport for London's outsourcing of the congestion charging scheme, which is an amazing technology deal. 2003, first real widespread use of computer vision, number plate recognition in a large commercial environment. First, almost one of the first implementations of mobile payments. Very little before that. And I did a number of deals for that business, the outsourcing of BBC TV license, some big deals in the insurance sector.
Okay.
And then I did a lot of, a mixture of technology outsourcing deals and business transformation, business process outsourcing deals in the financial services sector. So a lot of, from desktop outsourcing for insurance companies to whole back office outsourcings for fund managers. And so that's always been a large staple part of our business. We've recently just done a significant outsourcing for a global fast service restaurant chain in relation to their point of sale terminals. No one goes to the counter anymore. You just plug in and that was the deal we did in one of the UK's biggest.
Interesting. What would you say makes Garfield Smith different? Is it that depth of knowledge of the technology space?
Definitely. There are a number of distinguishing factors. I think we are absolutely immersed in technology. We're all interested in technology. All the team are absolutely passionate about it. We don't have any junior lawyers, so we are all very, very senior. And
okay. Interesting.
Having managed a large team of lawyers in the past, that's the way we all like it. And we're incredibly good value because we keep our overheads low. We've got offices in the city, but they're very small. We have no two-story receptions that our clients are paying for.
Very good. Very good. Excellent. So now on your card, obviously it says technology and data. So, and obviously data is going to cover things like GDPR, but tell us a bit more about the data side that you get involved with.
Yeah, we do. It's very broad. Last year we did a fabulous exit for I think probably the world's leading provider of metal price data. So that had been a business that had been run by a single founder for 35 years. She was retiring, and we helped her sell that business. We deal with licensing of data, so if companies are buying data from another provider, we'll advise them on the contractual terms and conditions of buying that data.
Makes sense.
On the regulatory side, we do a significant, we have always 4 or 5 on the go at one time, data compliance projects. So we'll sit down with an organisation and we'll say, how do you process data? what is it? What are the relevant regulations? Not just the GDPR. There are other regulations which apply.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll do compliance programs for them. And then, unfortunately, on the other side, we often get calls that say we've had a data breach, we've been hacked, and it's amazing often what the root causes of those hackings are. Can you help us notify the regulator, deal with the contractual issues which arise, whether they're then, because of the hacking or the data loss, they're at risk from maybe liability from one of their customers. Perhaps the hacking was caused by one of their subcontractors. So we'll do all the analysis in relation to that, and then deal with the regulator as well in relation to the notification of the breach. Excellent.
Very good. Now, we can't talk about technology at the moment without mentioning AI. And obviously, AI as a topic's been around for, maybe 70 years, but suddenly, end of November 2022 and then into 2023, suddenly Gen AI and large language models burst onto the scene. It kind of democratizes the topic for everybody, because most people in the tech space will have actually tried it themselves, which is kind of different. What difference has that made to what you do? How is artificial intelligence affecting what you've done in the last year, and how you're planning for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two points to that question. There's what are we doing as a law firm in relation to using AI as a tool, and the other thing is what are we doing for our clients who are I teach on a part-time basis at Nottingham Law School to qualified lawyers, and I run 3 or 4 of the questions that we ask our students through AI. We do it every 6 months, all the main LLMs, we see what answers they give, and they always give answers very, very quickly. They always give very clear and easy to understand answers to the questions. And without fail, they always give answers that are wrong.
Yes. The so-called hallucinations.
Yes. So as a law firm, we're looking at AI, and I think as a tool to help our lawyers, it might be useful, but we're certainly not worried that we're going to be replaced anytime soon.
No.
On the client side, I think it's probably more interesting. I mean, about probably 18 months, 2 years ago, we were being asked to put in place AI use policies for clients, which said, you can't use AI. No employees can use AI. Now we're being asked much more difficult questions about how can we regulate our employees' use of AI in a way which doesn't, subject the business to risk. And you have got many risks. I mean, for media, content businesses, you've got your intellectual property,
big deal
risks. For the larger corporates, you've got your data privacy risks, your cyber risks. You've got your sort of confidential information loss, leakage risks. So it's a really interesting developing area, and it's one point we are seeing, which I would always advise caution on, is just because a technology is new doesn't mean the way that you buy it has to change from the way you bought previous technology.
100%.
So we're seeing, just because it's AI, we're seeing providers of AI solutions say to customers, it's AI, no, you don't, the contracts need to be different because it's AI. In most cases, that's not the case. You still have all the risks of buying technology that you would have had in the past. You just need to make sure your contracts deal with those risks properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Now, obviously we're the Cloud Industry Forum, and obviously there's a shift, from people always running things on their own premises in a data center when they're in control of the network, and obviously the shift to cloud, whether you're wholly going into the public cloud or you're using some kind of a hybrid approach, it changes things, and the risks are different. How do you get involved in that side of things, and kind of helping people minimize those risks?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've really enjoyed watching the development of the cloud industry. One of my first bosses was just about to retire when the sort of cloud industry and sort of IP-based network computing appeared. developed, he said, "Oh, this is all the same." He said, "I remember when we had a mainframe and we were doing deals with, with dumb terminals."
Yeah.
But I think it is different than that, because you've got the big issue with cloud computing is you've got that network risk. You've got the risk of cyber attacks.
Yeah.
And when you're buying a cloud solution, you've got to decide who has to take the responsibility for that risk and where your technical demarcation line is. If you're not really clear in your contract where your technical demarcation line is in relation to those risks, then you can't allocate liability.
Yeah.
And I think I think issues such as service levels and service standards become much more acute in a cloud-based solution than on an on-premises solution. Where you don't have the same sophistication in relation to the technology.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it comes with advantages, but there's risks you've got to manage properly.
Yeah,
and of course they're getting worse with actually because the black hats and the ransomware attackers have got artificial intelligence tools now that they didn't have a year ago. It makes it even more complicated.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. But the most disappointing thing that we find is when we look at breaches, and they're often around cloud solution providers. It's because the root cause. Why has this breach occurred? Why has a cyber attacker managed to get in? It's because one we did recently for a listed business in the UK was because the default passwords on a router hadn't been changed. And I'll give you another example. We did an access control system, and it was because someone had plugged a cable into a switch on an access control system that shouldn't have been plugged in. It connected it up to the internet when it should have been a closed internal system. So that is the
yes, the human problem.
Yes, no matter how sophisticated your cyber attackers are, if you make mistakes like that, you're going to be in trouble.
You're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
Interesting. What other kind of governance and compliance issues do you get involved in?
We do, on the corporate side, certainly with our emerging businesses, we deal a lot with helping founders of businesses deal with their own kind of corporate governance and manage their shareholders. It's if you start up a business, it's a job. I know, because I set up a law firm not too long ago.
Exactly.
You've got to deal with developing a product, selling it to your potential customers, dealing with your staff, marketing it, and often managing your shareholders. If you've got external investment, is bottom of the list. And we do spend a lot of time with founders, sort of talking them through what's in their shareholders agreement, and basic good motherhood and apple pie about keeping their shareholders informed, but also bringing them up to speed on what sort of issues, what decisions they can't make, and that they actually have to formally go back to their investors to ask for consent before they do them. So certainly that's the sort of, I guess that's the big compliance issue that we see in a lot of our early stage businesses. It's an internal one rather than an external one.
Interesting. Now, we've covered a lot of ground in this conversation, but for our audience, if you kind of look at what are the legal issues that the typical tech company, and you've touched on a little bit on this, the typical tech company gets wrong, what are the things that you're kind of most often getting involved in and helping fix?
The funny thing about the tech sector is, having been in it for over 30 years, is there's this fabulous kind of curious nature of technologists, and they always say, can we do this? Can we make it work? And they never ask, should we make it work? Can we, should we be doing this? So we do see, intellectual property issues all the time. So the wrongful use of intellectual property. We see significant data protection. Any data-driven business that uses lots of personal data in its early stage almost has got significant GDPR compliance issues. And again, the point that I mentioned before, shareholder compliance and complying with the legal terms and conditions you signed up to when you took money to build your business from your investors is probably the third big issue that early stage businesses struggle with.
Okay, Well, Garfield, that's been fantastic. Tell me, how do people find out more about Garfield Smith? Garfield Smith.
Come to our webpage, www.garfieldsmithlegal.com.
Yep.
There's details of everything we do and all the team, what they do too.
Yeah.
And get in touch through there.
And I guess they can find you on LinkedIn as well.
And we're on LinkedIn too, yes.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Well, that's been fantastic. Really, big thank you for coming on the show, Garfield.
It's been an absolute pleasure, David. Thank
Great
you very much.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed what Garfield had to say about legal technology issues around cloud and AI and GDPR and actually the shareholder thing, which I hadn't thought of before. So that's been great. We'll be back live like this on next Wednesday at 2:30. We'd love to have your feedback on this show. Did you like it? Put some comments here. Send an email to info@cloudindustryforum.org. Maybe you want to appear on the show. Get in touch. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again either next week or next time. Thanks very much.